Hello and welcome to the start of a weekly reading vlog. This is going to be part of my ClearUrSht reading vlogs. A couple hours ago, I had just filmed my little ClearUrSht update because the first 2 weeks of November I did not vlog anything because life and the books I was reading just weren't good. So those vlogs kind of flopped, and I talk more about that in that video. So I'll have it linked down in the description below and in the cards above. But I am here now to start off a weekly vlog. Hopefully it goes good. Hopefully the books are better. But I'm starting this week off with 162 books on my TBR, and we're gonna see how many books I can read in a week. I don't really have anything planned too much this week. I do have a baby shower to go to on Saturday, but overall, like, my week is going to be pretty chill. I have a couple homework assignments to do, but they shouldn't take me too long. And yeah, let's go and talk about what books I am currently reading. I'm about 50% of the way through Alchemised. I am listening to the audiobook of that one, although my hold from the library just came in for the ebook of it, so I will probably read it both ways, but I do only own the audiobook, which is the only one that is going to count for my numbers. I'm also in the middle of reading Cult Nun. This is just the dust jacket. I have the book over there, but this is a nonfiction book, and I have read like the first little like prologue of it, where it's the author talking about sort of her childhood and what the Children of God cult even is. I've been in a bit of a nonfiction mood, which is why I originally picked this book up. However, right now I'm kind of in the mood for a romance, so I might go ahead and try out People Watching. This is a romance book, and it's by an author who I've read a few things by before, and I've really enjoyed them, so I feel like this could be a really fun, easier read. It is very short, at least compared to like the books I have been reading lately, and again, it's by an author I have already read and enjoyed from before, so I feel like I might go ahead and start this tonight, but we'll see. And yeah, I'm just gonna take you guys with me as I go through this week and see how much I can possibly read. Guys, I have finished People Watching, and this is definitely a new favorite of all time of the year. It was a 5-star read. I absolutely loved this book so much. I finished it earlier this morning, and it had me bawling my eyes out. It was just both so sad and so sweet, and just like the perfect book. And I did find out when I was marking this book as read that there is going to be a second book set in like the same universe, and that one's called People Pleasing, and I really hope it is following Milo's sister. I really hope so, but let me tell you guys about this book. So in this one, we are following our two main characters, Milo and Prue lives in this very small town. She helps her father run their little shop and care for her mother, who has early onset Alzheimer's, and Milo is in town visiting because his brother is opening a bar in this small town, and he hasn't really seen his family in a while because he's a bit of a traveler. He doesn't stay in one place for too long, and these characters end up meeting and they strike up a deal because Prue doesn't really have much of a life. She hasn't experienced much, and so she basically has this checklist that she wants to complete with Milo in order to get out of her comfort zone and do things she hasn't done before. And their relationship is just so sweet. They both are like very patient with each other, and because like they both have a lot of stuff going on in their lives and they don't necessarily want to talk about it, but they trust each other and are like slowly opening up with each other, and it's just so cute. Obviously, Prue has a lot of stuff going on with her mom, and it's just very sad reading about all this, but also very heartwarming in the way that she talks about her mom. And there's also some more stuff that ends up happening with Prue regarding her father, but I don't want to say because it might just be like a slight spoiler. It is in the trigger warnings at the beginning of the book, so definitely check those out if you are interested. But Milo also has a bit of a tragic backstory, and like he doesn't come from a very good family, so a lot of that is explored in this book, and it was just absolutely amazing. It had me in my feels, and I don't cry too often at books. I don't tend to pick up very emotional books or get affected by books that easily, but this one just really did it. Specifically, I have one tab and it is for the page that had me absolutely sobbing, but it is page 256, which is the very last page of chapter 23, and it just really got me. I absolutely adored it, and I have read things by this author before and really enjoyed them, but this one is just on a whole new level. It is just an absolute favorite. And so obviously this one did get a book off of my TBR. However, I did end up acquiring another book. So as I've mentioned in a couple other videos, I am on a couple different authors' ARC teams, and this new one that I got is not necessarily an ARC, but it's a new special edition of the book that is coming out. And I haven't read the book previously, so I do have a copy of that I'm adding to my TBR. And I can't think of what the title is off the top of my head, but I will have a picture of it up on the screen. But it is by Amy Wright, and so I'm really excited to check this one out. I do really enjoy this author's work, so I'm excited to get to it. However, it does bring me right back up to 162 books, but I still have plenty of this week left to try and make progress. And the book that I have decided to start reading for some reason is Fevered Star. This one is on my ClearUrSht TBR. However, I wasn't really planning on picking this one up just yet. I was hoping to continue reading Cult Nun, but I was just really in the mood for this, so I did end up picking this one up. I did read the first chapter, and once I finish updating you guys, my plan is to just spend the rest of the night reading this book. And so this one is book 2. Book 1 is Black Sun, which I have right here, and that one is also one that I gave 5 stars to, and it's like my favorite fantasy that I have read all year. And so I really want to dive back into this world, and I'm really excited. Chapter 1 has already thrown in a little bit of a twist, so I'm really excited to continue reading this one. I also haven't made any more progress on Alchemised or Cult Nun, so those are still like in progress. I technically have read like another small bit of Alchemised, but not enough to really give you guys any updates on it. This weekend I did go to a baby shower, which was really fun, and also it was in a different city, so me and my mom also like went to a couple places there, and I do have pictures of that up on my Instagram, and maybe I will throw some up on the screen as well. But I did go to a bookstore and I managed not to buy a single book, which I think is the first time this year that I have managed to do that, because every time I walk into a bookstore, I always feel the need to walk out with a book. And so yeah, this was the first time I didn't leave with a book, which I am very proud of myself. And it is definitely not because I was on a time crunch and there was a long line that I couldn't wait in. That's definitely not the reason. But I didn't get any books while I was there, and I'm very proud of that. I didn't get any like videos or anything while I was there, but I had a lot of fun. It was a really great weekend. And then Sunday I was visiting some more family. So yeah, not too much progress has been made. Obviously today I have just been like doing schoolwork, and I finished people watching. So I still have the rest of the week to read a whole bunch, and I'm really excited. Again, my like schoolwork is winding down, and today I actually finished like all of the assignments I had for one of my 5 classes, so that is going to make it a lot easier. But I will probably update you guys tomorrow and give you guys a little update on Fevered Star. So right before I hit record, my microphone adapter broke, so hopefully the sound quality isn't too bad. But I forgot yesterday when talking about people watching that this book was actually my 100th book of the year, which is so exciting, not only because I hit 100 books, but also that my 100th book was a 5-star read. And so I think that's just so cool, but I did want to say that really quick. And then I also ended up finishing Fevered Star, and I feel like I keep calling this one Fevered Sun, so if the previous clip I called it Fevered Sun, I apologize, it is Fevered Star, but this one I did finish and I gave it 4 stars. I was going to update you guys at the halfway mark, but then I sort of got sucked into the story and never updated you guys, but I have finished it. I gave it 4 stars. This definitely has a bit of that like middle book syndrome. It's not as good as the first book, but I just absolutely adore these characters in this world that we are in. We are definitely in that in-between stage where all the characters are sort of going to where they need to go for like the finale, and I am very scared to read that book because I don't want to see anything happen to any of these characters. I love them so much. But yeah, while this was not as good as the first one, I think it's a really solid book. And again, I can't really say too much about what's going on in this one because I don't want to spoil the first book for you guys, but I cannot wait to read the last book in the series. I do not own it, and it is not my priority to go get it just because I am trying to work on my TBR, but I am really glad that I finally got around to reading this one. And so after finishing Fevered Star, I was kind of in the mood for a romance, and I decided I wanted to pick up one of the shortest romances on my physical TBR, and that was Back to the 80s. And this one I had read a chapter of previously, and then I read another chapter of it. So I read about 2 chapters of this, and I just decided to go ahead and DNF this one. This one just wasn't really vibing with me, which is really sad because I actually won this book in a giveaway, and so I really wanted to enjoy it, but unfortunately it's just not for me. I guess I should tell you guys what this one is about. We are following our main character Blaine, who owned this like 80s store in the mall, and I forgot his name. His name is Eric. He is sort of a developer who's coming to knock down the mall and build, I think it was a brewery, but obviously the shop owners in this store are not happy about that. They don't want to lose their jobs and everything. And it is a romance between Blaine and Eric. So it is like one of those stories where she's like trying to sell him on like the 80s and all the good things that are in the mall and like small businesses and things like that. And obviously he's more of like the bad guy developer, knocking things down, building new things, that kind of vibe. And it's very much giving Hallmark, which is not necessarily my favorite when reading a romance, but also it was just very repetitive between both points of view of them constantly talking about how this mall is getting knocked down. And obviously it's the start of the book. I understand them explaining that. I just also felt like it was very repetitive, and it was enough to annoy me, so I just know that this book is not going to work for me, which is very sad, but it is another book off of my TBR. And then for some reason, as I was looking at my shelves, I decided that the book I was in the mood to read was The Wise Man's Fear. And this book is almost 1,000 pages. It is definitely a chunky one. I read the first book in the Kingkiller's Chronicle, I want to say like 2 years ago now, and I have definitely held off on reading this book. One, because it is very intimidating, but also because book 3 is like never coming out. I want to say the release date for it is like 2029, and I still don't know if I believe that that is true, but for some reason I was in the mood to pick this one up and get back into it, and I did start it, although my progress is not a lot. I read the very short prologue and the first chapter, and I'm definitely glad to be back in the world and back with these characters. I'm very intrigued to see what all happens in this book. I don't remember a whole lot from book 1, so hopefully this one isn't too confusing to try and remember it, but I definitely was not going to read book 1 because that one is also very large. But yeah, this one is going to take me a while. I might pick up another physical book while making my way through this one. I'm not too sure yet. But yeah, I decided to pick this one up. As far as Alchemised goes, I still have not made too much progress in that one. I feel like every time I pick it up, I just never make any progress in it because it's just so long. And the audiobook is really long. And it's like every chapter of it that I finish, it's only like 1% of the book. But This one I sort of still have very mixed feelings on. I honestly don't know if I want to go ahead and DNF it or not. I think I want to wait till I get to part 3 of it to really decide my answer. But I've heard that like all the things you learn by the end of part 2 explains part 1 a whole lot better. So I am curious about that, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bored. Every sort of plot twist that they are giving us at the moment, I just don't really care too much about. It's not very shocking. I still am very unsure about the romance. Like, I understand we're getting a lot more of the backstory and like understanding of Cain, but I just don't know if I really feel their romance. And yeah, I don't know. I'm very unsure about this one so far, but again, I'm gonna give it till I hit part 3 to really decide on if I want to continue or DNF. But that is it for this little update right now. All right, so it's the end of the week and I did end up finishing Alchemised. I finished part 2 and part 3 wasn't very long, so I just went ahead and finished the entire book. I decided on giving this one 2 stars. It definitely was not my favorite. I can see why so many people enjoy this book, and while we're on the topic, I know that this book is nominated for Goodreads Choice Awards. I know it is very controversial because it is Harry Potter fan fiction that got picked up. I do not support Harry Potter or the author. And I will also say I've never really been the biggest Harry Potter fan. I've never finished the series or watched all of the movies. I want to say I made it to like book 3 or 4 and probably the same for the movies. So the series is not something that I am super familiar with or know all the details in and outs of, but I will say Alchemized doesn't really give me the same vibes as Harry Potter. And I also bought this book through Libro.fm, which supports indie bookstores directly with my purchase. So I do want to say that I tried to be the most ethical that I could when getting this book, but it is one that I wanted to read because it is one of my friend's favorite books. And obviously I rated it 2 stars. It was not my favorite, but I did just want to say that it at least does not remind me of Harry Potter in any way. Besides the male main character having silver hair, nothing is really the same. Maybe there's some stuff, I don't know, but it does not really give me those vibes. But again, I can understand why so many people are enjoying this book. It is definitely a very vibes kind of book. It is a character study. While there is a plot, in this 1,000-page book, there is a plot. You don't really get much of that until part 3. Parts 1 and 2, which is like 70 to 80% of the book, is all just backstory and the intricacies of like these characters. It's definitely like a big study into these characters and like what they're going through with the war. And honestly, it was boring. Until part 3, this book was just so boring and such like a slog to get through. I thought part 1 was very boring. Part 2 was even more boring. However, part 2 made part 1 better in that like it explained a lot. There were like a lot of connections and that was pretty cool. I will give the author that, what she ended up doing with that, I thought was really cool. Again, I'm trying not to like spoil anything, so that's why I'm being very vague. But part 3, I felt like it was just a rush. All the plot points were happening, so much was happening, and it was just way too much for too short of a portion of the book, and it wasn't for me. So yeah, I gave that one 2 stars. And I also don't think I talked to you guys about the book that I was reading for school, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. I do not own this book, so it doesn't like count towards reading down my TBR. However, it is something that I read this week. I want to say it was like 300 pages. I got it from the library, and it is one that I had to read for one of the classes I'm taking. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that I also read that book this week. It's a pretty interesting book. It's taking a look very specifically at a team and this new manager who comes in to try and build the team up to make it better, make the company better. And it's basically like a whole case study, and it was pretty interesting. Not much of like substance besides that. But as far as books I've had to read for school, this was probably the more interesting one that I've had to analyze, so I will give it that. And so I started this week off with 162 books on my TBR. I did haul one this week, which I believe I talked about, but I'm ending this week off with 159 books left on my TBR. We're finally below the 160 mark, which is progress. I love seeing progress and it just makes me very happy. But I will give a quick recap of everything I've read this week. So first, I read People Watching. I gave this one 5 stars. Absolutely amazing. A new all-time favorite book. I would just so highly recommend you guys check this out and just give it a try. It was so amazing. Then I read Fevered Star, which is book 2 to Black Sun. I gave this one 4 stars. Again, sort of a middle-of-the-road book, but still absolutely wonderful. I DNF'd back to the 80s, and we just talked about Alchemised, which I gave 2 stars, and The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which I gave 3 stars. And then The Wise Man's Fear. I am still reading this one. I didn't make too much progress in it. I am on chapter 7, which is page 64, and I am enjoying it, and this is one that I will continue reading on into the next couple of weeks, so don't be shocked if you see this one pop up in a few extra vlogs, but I am enjoying it so far. But that is it for this week's reading vlog. If you made it this far, leave me like the falling leaves emoji for fall and for People Watching. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!